permission.
No.
You're on my lot.
Right.
You're not making a purchase. You actually
I will leave.
business.
You're asking me to leave now, right?
But you need to delete it though first.
Okay. Why don't you call the police?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Where's your vehicle?
I'm not going to answer your questions.
Is it on my lot?
First for everything, right? Hey guys, welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we're going to wander the lot here, Las Vegas Airstream, and they have some very large one, like this large, I believe this is a 30-foot Globetrotter. And then there's a little Bambi down there, a Caravl, some Tradewinds, which I kind of like the Tradewind. So this is a little throwback to the 25-foot Globetrotter that we had. So this is I believe this is going to be a 30. We're going to double check this, but yeah, pretty typical looking Airstream, beautiful, you know, doors, all that good stuff. Woo, hot, 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 hot. That is very hot. And same pricey meatball. Some of the quality concerns I'm having here, like this, that's very interesting. But boy, they sure are beautiful. So long as you don't touch anything. Now this, I love, love, love this dark wood. What in the world is that? You guys see that flex? It got pushed back. What in the world? Oh, God, this is, goodness gracious. Anyways, we had the lighter cabinetry and Emma, yeah, no, I am seeing that flex. There it is. Okay, goodness, squirrel. I love the dark wood and Emma likes light wood. And so we had a light gray and a white wood. But I really liked the dark. It's actually called like Seattle Fog or Seattle Mist in the dark wood. But Emma thought it was going to be too dark. So this is just, I mean, these are just beautifully, the shapes and, you know, all that good stuff. They have a new factory as well. It's very interesting in Jackson, Ohio. You should definitely visit. And it's a real cool homage to the origins of, I like the little switches. I don't remember how many of these we had. Oh, man, you see those guys? It must have just come in, but see, when we had our Airstreams, the new factory was not open, and it was really cool because our sink had fallen in, and you can see how they mount these. They're actually under-mounted sinks, and so, boy, this one has seen better, maybe never seen better days. Actually, I don't know, but it was under-mounted. It actually fell all the way through. And so that was such a frustrating thing, but they did. That was day 3 of owning it. And so by the end of day 3, I'd already called, made an appointment, and they got us right in. They got us squared away in Jackson Center. And I believe his name was Charles that took care of us. And still remember him. The people are wonderful. Oh, I see what's going on here. That's what it is. So this is not secured into here. Yikes, big yikes. Anywho, this I believe is the model that has the most number of windows in total. I love this big L, lounger. I feel like dog spot, some storage in the middle if you wanted to mod this, up to you. But no beating these windows. But the heat out here, it's like 106 outside. And let's check the skin temperature. So everybody asks what temperature app I'm using. So the Google Pixel 9 Pro has a temperature sensor. It's this guy right there, the lower one. So most phones can't do this, but this has a temperature sensor on it. Outer skin 118.3, so let's get it up here, 116. So what is it on the inside? Now granted, this is not necessarily super fair, right? But 117, 118, yep. And if you've ever heard of the process of thermal bridging, that's what happens. When the outside transfers the heat to the inside, it bridges. And the same thing with the cold. Same thing with the cold and condensation, all that good stuff. So I love the look of the Globetrotter, but there's no handle, so you putting your fingers on this and such a bummer because it is so hard to clean. It's really, really hard to clean. So let's get out of this one. Yeah, they sure are beautiful, aren't they? However, woo, people love that sound. Now, I gotta say, it makes me appreciate our Escape more because while we have less floor space, we have all the same, amenities that these do for the most part. But talk about some of the advantages. So, the Tradewind. This is I want to say this is a 25-foot Tradewind, and we had a 25. And this one, nice orange on the inside here in the butt door. I really like that. Cabinetry in this one is a little bit better settled, it looks like, and a little cover for your. I really like that. And down-facing speakers, I like that. That's cool. Yeah, this is the same layout we had. Interesting kind of offset. This gray and then the very, very interesting. Yes, indeed. One thing that is nice about fiberglass, though, is it's not as good of a conductor as metal by any means. And you can polish it a little bit easier because it's colored. Whoo, it's dark in here, isn't it? But yeah, this, you know, I like the window here. That's kind of a cool thing, but boy, I tell you, these condensate like crazy. It's cozy in here, that's for sure, but yeah, they have their set of issues. And you know, it's funny because you'd think you'd be able to see the TV maybe, but honestly, terrible placement. You'd really want it up there if you wanted to be able to see it, or even over there. But one thing I really liked is I always kept, because there's 2 layers here. There is 2, and these, by the way, these get all gunked up. 2 layers, so it's really hard to see in unless the lights are on inside at night. But you can see your truck. And actually, we had our 25-foot Airstream in Tennessee. The one time someone tried to mess with our truck, it was a lady trying to get into the toolbox that we had. Sam scared her away. Yeah, cool Tradewind. Now these have the advantage of, these have a lithium package. They have upgraded solar. I believe they also have a 2-inch, yeah, they have a 2-inch lift kit as well. And they put some, you know, beefier looking Goodyear Wranglers on these workhorse all-terrains. Yeah, kind of interesting. I believe they might have bigger tanks, but let's see what the cargo carrying capacity is on this. 1,169 pounds of cargo, and then minus 323 if you travel with water, which we always do. So I know a lot of people don't do that. We always do because that's how we live. This has a zip-D manual awning. Again with the board. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, you know, I always wonder, because we had very leaky windows. It was this center window that would leak like crazy. And you can kind of see why, right? Now this is a slightly better design, but you can see that they're kind of angled and they go in. Where's that water gonna go, right? That's just something. We caulked and caulked and caulked, and the factory did it so many times, you know. But then I figured, okay, this idea is awesome with the big door, but I mean, just the potential for leaks and drafts, and we would never use it, but oh, it's so cool to see. Now I had the 23 corner bed that was a flying cloud before that, and this is the 23 front bed. This is the one I should have, oh, there's another Tradewind. It's right underneath the bird zone. Beautiful, man, beautiful when they're clean. So, the one thing about this, right, just to give you guys some context, can I turn the power on? Oh, they got a little button here for the battery disconnect. And it's dead. So the one thing about this, right, I am actually blind in one eye. So when I walk in, you gotta keep in mind, I can only see like this, right? All I see is this wall until I turn my head. And you know, these kind of always scare me because I'm like, oh, those are really close. And I was looking at the Flying Cloud version, you know, it's 2016. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer because I wish this is a twin bed version, but I believe it's a queen otherwise. And so I wish I could have just gotten over that feeling. This guy's coming at 126,000 smackers. And here's a twin, you know, you get a little storage, you get a little locker up here. That's cool. But yeah, I don't know. It's a nice layout, U-shaped dinette. The fridge is not too big though. It's just a 12 volt. Oh, there we go. Not too small. What is going on here? What is that all about? Huh. Maybe a drip tray of some sort? Not a big fan of that fridge. That's kind of a goofy fridge to me. But lots and lots and lots of cabinetry space. I like the little latch here. That's cool. Lots of cabinetry space. And this bathroom though, I know a lot of you guys don't like your wet baths. I love our wet bath. But this, I mean, porcelain throne. I do like the window back here. You know, you're sitting here, you're doing your business, you know, tiny bit tall, but you know, you're going, you still look out, say hi to your neighbors, you know, this opens and all that. And then you've got your shower is pretty small. This is actually really small. So getting into it, this makes me appreciate more and more our escape. And still no shower miser. Kind of a bummer. I'm sure that this guy has an on-demand water heater. It's kind of a small shower, you know? I don't know. I don't remember this being as small. I know that my 23D, it was split, half bed, half bathroom. But yeah, it wasn't that small. I do think that if I had this layout with a single bed instead of a double, I probably would have kept that unit a little longer. But we had an unbelievable amount of issues. It was at, I think in all, I had my trailer in for probably 7 months out of 12 months. And I'd owned it for 2 years. So it was in So Airstream actually extended the warranty. It was that bad. So many issues, and then right outside the issue, you know, and that's not Airstream's fault, but the fridge kind of pooped the bed. So one of those things. Now this guy has kind of an interesting array of windows there, kind of a layout there that I think this might be, nope, might be locked. Ah, crap. Now this little guy here is gonna be a Bambi. And one of the interesting things about the Bambis that always frustrates me is that like, they're kind of treated like second-class trailers, you know? You get a lot of the same deals, but like, they give you a cheaper air conditioner, right? And these are not cheap trailers. Cheaper air conditioners, you don't get kind of as nice looking of windows, you know, they're not the same framing. You don't get a front guard here. And I would be willing to bet that unless you add one, these guys are not going to have, oh, this is interesting. I think this is a 20-foot. They're not going to even have a bumper. That bothers me because the bumper is very important, because if you damage one of these panels, they're extraordinarily expensive. There's a Caravl, very similar, but you see it like more, you get more taillights, you get a bumper on it, it's a little bit more money. I don't love these windows, I don't know. Let's take a look at this guy though. You know, and they're not terrible. This guy's 76,000 bucks and you don't even get a bumper. Man, oh man. Again, makes me appreciate our trailer even more. Now these are really cheap feeling. I know some people think they're so cool, but they're really hard to open. Most owners do not like these, from what I've read. You know, everything on them is just a little bit, like these are a little bit lighter. It's one of those things they want to get you in, and then they want to get you up. It's kind of what I noticed. I hate that these are two different levels, but I do like this. I mean, look at this little sink. You got a dual basin sink. That's interesting. Kind of obnoxious. I don't know. I don't love that. But, you know, I don't know. It's beautiful and yet kind of disappointing all at the same time. Like, this just feels like they could have done something better and they just didn't. This fridge, you know, and this is a single axle unit. So these Bambis are all single instead of a tandem axle like the rest. I think the 23 and ups are all tandem. Is that a bigger shower? Looks like a bigger shower than the 23. Huh. This will get incredibly dirty, but again, for 76,000 smackers, whoo-wee, I don't know about that. And smaller tanks, I forget what they are on this. You can always look it up, but I don't know. Airstream does make some very interesting choices, and of course, they had to appeal to everybody, you know. So the Caravl, that next step up, right? I'm trying to think, there's all little tiny differences here and there, but this one is still a single axle, but you get that bumper, you get 4 taillights instead of 2 if that's something that's important to you. Oh, sorry. No, you're just doing an awkward tour. Now the steps on these, also, you know, you don't get as much grip tape, or, I don't know. Do you need the 2 steps? I don't know. Oh, the AC is on in here and it does work. Thank goodness. Okay, now this one, very similar to that 23, the rear bath. Yeah, very similar. You get a slightly smaller fridge. Now this Caravl is coming in at what, 80? 96,500. 96,500. You do slightly different seating. Would be nice if they put 2 windows here. No, whatever. And is this cute? It's cozy, you know, but I do prefer this cabinetry. And that looks really bad. Oh my goodness, I didn't even notice that. They do that everywhere? No, not on this one. But it looks like a texture, but it's smooth. I think that's cheesy. That's a very Thor thing. Now, I want to talk about that actually, because Thor owns Airstream, and so they bought Airstream. A lot of people go, well, since Thor bought Airstream, the quality is plummeted, but it's actually not true, because Thor bought Airstream in 1980, and they immediately, they cut upper management because it wasn't working. They weren't doing anything with designs, right? And they immediately became profitable within the next year, which was really interesting. But they didn't do that necessarily at the expense of quality. For the most part, Thor, they're gonna give them some design inspiration. They're gonna give them, hey, you have access to these vendors. But, oh, and I almost forgot, this one does get rock guards where the Bambis do not. So, but you have access to these vendors, you can use these components, and let's be real, there is definitely some cost savings going on, cost cutting going on, compared to historic models, but that's not necessarily because of Thor by any means. It's just what the current directors and engineers have access to. Go into one of these base camps, and you know, it's funny because this is very reminiscent of the earliest designs from Wally Byam. And they weren't originally aluminum, but I believe they called it a torpedo. I think was the name of it. But they just redid it in aluminum. And I don't love them, but they're very lightweight. You know, people like them. This one's locked. We'll find one that is not. They used to come in at like 40,000, 42,000. I'm sure they've gone up in price. There's also a slightly larger one. Your door's a little more simple. You have a single step. It's a single axle, as you would expect. But look at this front window. It's kind of cool. Unfortunately, though, your view is at the back. But you do have a butt door, and you can put your paddle boards and kayaks and bikes and such in here. You know, it's a lot more simplistic, but there are people that live out of these, and they're happy. Probably mostly single folks and their dogs. That is so interesting. And the shower, again, a lot more simplistic. They could put a little window on this. I feel like it needs a little window. That door is extremely hot. Why is that so hot? They put a mirror here. But yeah, this guy's coming out at $59,950. Again, you know, these are nice, you know, the rivets pop out. That happens. It has happened to us quite a few times. We had interior rivets that would pop out, and we took ours off, you know, off-road, forest service roads, things like that. But we had internal rivets popping off all the time. Pros and cons to anything. So they're beautiful, but they are delicate. And so I think they're amazing if you let them sit somewhere. They're great. They're great, but it seemed like every time we went out, we found something else wrong. This is an REI one, I believe. It's an REI. Yep. So this is kind of cool. So you can see the plywood. It's really nicely faced. I like the rubber flooring in here, but more green. Wow, it's dark. More green. You have one fan there. Yeah, a lot of green accents instead of the red. And this one's 65,350 smackers. Woo-wee. Our trailer was a bargain. Yeah, you know, and you'd think it's the Coleman Mach AC. Those are loud and they're inefficient. So I would be willing to bet, though, our little 12-volt unit would do pretty well here. But recharging with solar on a roof like this, kind of tough. Unfortunately, there's a lot of folks. Oh, hi.
Permission.
No.
You're on my lot.
Right.
You're not making a purchase. You actually are doing business.
I will leave.
So why would you leave then if you thought it was okay?
You're asking me to leave now, right?
But you need to delete it though first.
Okay. Why don't you call the police?
That's a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
Is this your black truck right here?
No.
Where's your vehicle?
I'm not going to answer your questions.
Is it on my lot?
Go ahead and call the police.
You're so bad, you just can't do
So we are getting kicked out now. First for everything. Now, granted, I've never asked permission to view and show off and things, but they didn't seem to appreciate me making a video here. So he's going to call the police, and then he wants me to delete the footage, which I've respectfully declined, but I will go ahead and leave. Airstream of Las Vegas. Bad look, guys. Whoa. Oh my goodness, guys. So I cannot believe what just happened. Now, you guys know how I've always done RV tours. I've been doing it for years. Dealerships are generally open to the public, just like a store would be, right? But there are certain conditions, right? So if there's an access gate, you can't just hop the gate. You know, that makes good sense. But this one's just open to, you know, anybody can come in, park, and you can tour, right? That's a shopping experience, right? That makes good sense. And so I'm making video, I'm touring for you guys. I'm shopping, I'm sharing my opinions, and you guys have the opportunity to share your opinions in the comments, right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's, you know, dude comes up, and I stopped the camera because I thought he was going to try to sell me something, and I did, you know, a lot of people are uncomfortable being on camera, and he goes, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm just touring the lot and making tour videos. And he's like, okay, you need to delete that footage. You can't do that. And I'm like, what? Like, that's crazy. And we do have the right to record in public, and this is private property, but it's open to the public, so you can record on private property. There's nothing that says you can't record. He goes, yeah, you need to delete that right now. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to delete that. Like, no. And he goes, I said, I will leave. And he goes, well, why are you willing to leave? He goes, did you have permission to be here? I'm like, yeah, just like everybody has permission to be here. And I was like, it's open to the public. And he goes, so why are you willing to leave right now if it's open to the public? I was like, because you've revoked my access. You know, something to that effect. And, you know, I wasn't being a dick, but like, you know, and he goes, and he's like, yeah, well, you need to delete that because Airstream is copyright. And he's pointing to the Airstream tag. I was like, which is not true, right? Media that is transformative or, for example, reviews, those are protected under the First Amendment. So it's not copyright nonsense. So I'm like, no, I will leave. And he goes, well, no, you need to delete that photo. I was like, why don't you go ahead and call the police? He kept saying my Airstream dealership. And I'm like, he's not the owner. Like, you can tell by the way he was dressed and his demeanor, definitely not, you know, the owner of Airstream. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to stick around on private property, like where I'm not wanted. So I just leave. But and I think that's the best course of action, right? Is don't continue to escalate. Just de-escalate and leave. And if you're asked to leave private property, just leave. Like, what do you know? I'm not going to argue it. And I wasn't going to wait for the police to tell this guy what I know is true, which is that, you know, it's open to the public otherwise, and, you know, recording, there's nothing illegal about that. That's crazy. And you know, you don't necessarily need to get permission to film somewhere that you're legally allowed to be, but if they say no filming on private property, then you cannot be on their private property performing an act. But I could stand right outside and film all I want, you know. And oh, what a nutter, man. I don't know. I know there's always gonna be like one person out there that goes, no, you're not allowed to do that, and you should have asked permission, and you shoulda, and, right? Like, okay, like I coulda, shoulda, woulda, didn't, right? It's one of those things. And but the reality is that no, it's not against the law, and maybe it's a social faux pas, maybe. But the reality is that like I'm simply recording the product. I don't care about the dealership, right? I just, you know. But if I was treated well, I'm going to share that experience with you guys. But if I'm treated poorly, I'm also going to share that experience with you guys. And you guys know that I'm all about sharing authentic reviews, and that is part of the review, right? And I already said like hi to a couple people. They said hi back, yeah, no problem. And I thought we were all good. Like, why would there be a problem? The way that I'm treated, I'm not a customer, you know, but he doesn't know that, right? I'm not looking for me, but I'm shopping for you guys, because maybe you guys see all these things and you're like, okay, I'm gonna be aware of that and that and that and that, but I still want an Airstream. And so you might say, should I go to Airstream Las Vegas? And how are they gonna treat me? Well, I can tell you, before you're even a customer, right? Because everybody's a potential customer. Before you're even a customer, that's how I was treated for doing something that's not terribly abnormal, right? Doing RV reviews is not an, you know, that's a thing. That's just, and if you're in the game, like, you know that. So anyways, I just, what a crazy thing. So if this is how they treat people beforehand, how are they going to treat you afterwards? You know? And to be honest, like, the condition of these trailers, which is not abhorrent, like, by any means, but yeah, there were some concerning things, right? I'd be putting stickers all over everything as a PDI specialist there. Like, yeah, there's some things I would want to see different, but it's really, how does a dealer deal with that and make sure that I'm not getting a product, and when inevitably I need service, how are they treating me here? I also got to say that for 99% of all RVs, you are buying through a third party. And so you got one manufacturer, in this case, Airstream Incorporated, and they make the product. And then they ship it to a third party. In this case, Airstream of Las Vegas, which they license the, you know, the name and all that crap and whatever. And so, you know, I'm now, instead of just paying what I have to pay, I'm also paying a markup for them to store it, to finance it, because they have to, you know, they have a loan on it, and to take care of it, and you know, PDI and all that crap. And then you know, you're paying these salespeople. I would say at least 90% of our RV sales experiences for folks are mediocre or terrible, right? They're mediocre or terrible. Occasionally you get a great experience. We've had quite a few, but honestly, the third party deal is just, it's kind of terrible. It's kind of a terrible system. You know, granted, this is the same thing with the automotive industry, right? There's third party dealers and whatever, and they're not allowed to sell direct, but in the RV world, they don't have that restriction. So, you know, instead of having to parse what is an Airstream issue versus what is a specific dealership issue, instead of having to parse those two things out, you know, it's another reason that I love our Escape experience. It was really start to finish. It's just a great experience. You're not dealing with a middleman. You know, the price is what it is. You don't have to haggle. You don't have to deal with this crap. And it's just all these things are like, oh man, like now that I've had one experience, I'm kind of spoiled. But I don't think in this case I'm distorting anything. Like, this is genuinely like, what a crappy experience, you know? Now, some role reversal here. What would be the more appropriate thing to do? You know, if you have a policy that nobody can record on your property, having signs posted would be a great thing. You know, but that's going to be a little bit of a red flag to me as a customer. No photos, no videos, right? But politely, you know, inviting customer to video if they're allowed to, or advising them, hey, we don't allow that here, but I'm happy to answer your questions. You know, giving a good customer experience regardless of your policy is really the way I would have handled it. Seems like common sense, man. I don't know. But anyways, that's not how I expected that experience to go, how this video to end. And yeah, frankly, I mean, it is what it is, I guess. I don't know. So you guys leave your feedback in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.